Boom! Welcome to another Solo Couples podcast, another fanboy episode with a person who I'm gonna fanboy for the next 40 minutes. Hopefully not embarrass myself while doing that. But one of my second favorite critic in India of all time. I don't follow too many critics. The first would be Rajiv Matsan. Second is of course Mihir Fadnavis is on the show. Welcome Mihir. Thank you very much for doing this.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for embarrassing me with your intro, but I'll try to like not feel embarrassed.
No, no. Absolute honor, absolute pleasure having you. I have been following your work for what, 10 years now. Your Pretzels Make Me Thirsty blog, you have been writing for from what, 2008, and I've been reading that from like 2011. My favorite review, of course, I stumbled upon your Tismar Khan review, which was absolutely hilarious. And you're the kind of the critic who are more like ranter in chief of the film critic community, if I'm not wrong.
Well, again, like you continue to embarrass me, but thank you so much. I mean, to be honest, like I have never considered myself as like a film critic or whatever.
Mm,
I've only considered myself as like a film geek who really,
mm,
really likes cinema and really, really hates like terrible cinema. But
mm.
also, there's a certain kind of terrible cinema that I really also enjoy. So, I wish Bollywood went the whole hog and just like submitted to the dark side and made like completely trashy cinema instead of the boring ass shit
Yeah.
that you see very often. And as for your comment on the ranter in chief, then for sure, yeah, I mean, ranting is very necessary. Ranting is super necessary in all walks of life, and it is super important to put on paper also, which is how the sort of blog was born.
So superb. But you are not just a critic, right? You're a writer. You've been a producer. You produce what for? You were the producer for Ghoul on the Netflix show, right?
That's correct. That's correct. So
And
actually, I have actually stopped reviewing films now.
mm,
Uh, so I've become a filmmaker now. I'm now making films. So that's where the new sort of boundary has been crossed for me.
wow. And I take your cinema suggestions and movie suggestions very seriously. I mean, before the start of the lockdown, you tweeted something. Don't watch the new movies. Watch the entire Kurosawa, Tarkovsky, Burton Hughes, Bergman, Ray, Reno, and Nuri. How do you say his name?
Puri Bilge Salam.
Nuri Bilge Salam. Yeah, so I have watched The Stalker. All right. Let me admit very honestly, at the end, I did not understand what he was trying to do when he actually got there. Um, but a great movie. Kurosawa, I watched Rashomon and Nuri Bilge Ceylan. I watched one thing that won the Palm d'Or. I forgot the name of that. I have Once Upon a Time in Anatolia downloaded, but IPL
Right.
season not watching much. But so, you when you call a movie like Stalker genius, right? How do you feel when people like don't understand? Do you empathize with them? Do you know why they don't understand, or how does it go like with a normal audience who are not geeks?
Oh, for sure. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, so Tarkovsky is a kind of a filmmaker who only makes very artsy movies. Like, there is a certain kind of cinema which is very artsy, which doesn't follow the rules of filmmaking.
Mm,
So, what? So now there are certain rules of filmmaking. For example, a character behaves in a certain way, like a script is written in a certain way, so that the audience will be able to consume that particular moment in like a certain way. So if you do not follow the rules and if you want to break those principles, and if you want to make like an art form which goes completely against the grain, it comes out of left field, and you want to build just an atmospheric sort of a moment where you take from the scene whatever you want to take and whatever you can take. It's essentially Tarkovsky's filmmaking. And what is Tarkovsky's cinema? It's atmosphere and it's about rumination about life and death in general. That's what every film of his is about. And the way to connect with those films is to be super duper stoned and to regret every mistake from your life. And that's just a simplified way of putting it forward, to be honest. But
yeah, like
it,
I
it is
connected.
kind
Yeah.
of a higher order of filmmaking in the sense that it is difficult to make
Mm,
those sort of films where you can just show without saying too much. I think what differentiates a simple movie from a complex movie is you in a complex movie there's a lot of visuals but not much spoon feeding to the audience.
yeah.
That's given, and that is what Tarkovsky's film is about. And it's very open ended. You can interpret whatever the fuck you want out of any scene. Like for example, there's one movie where he just went with his entire crew and filmed for half the shoot in a nuclear site with like toxic fumes and shit, because of
Whoa.
which half the crew just died.
Yeah, yeah, I read about that.
So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you need to be able to be a kind of a madman to be able to do that, to be able to convince so many people to be able to do that and to make a good film out of it. So
Yeah.
back to your question. Your question is, what makes these films great? It's the fact that it doesn't follow the rules the way that they're supposed to be followed. The fact that the films are open ended for the audiences to interpret whatever they want and if they want to, and the fact that you can critique the government or the
Mm.
system or the faults of the human race or the human condition. You can have a critique in a very subtle manner with lush atmosphere. I think that's what makes a really good film, and that's what Tarkovsky was really good about, good
Yeah.
at.
I mean, one of the
Yeah,
classic.
take for example Solaris. Now, Solaris is a science fiction movie that he made,
Mm.
which is essentially about a guy missing his wife back on Earth. That's all it was, and how sort of being in isolation sort of makes you hallucinate things that are not really there. So very simple concept taken on a very philosophical note, and he's made like a masterpiece out of it. It was such a great film that Steven Soderbergh made a remake on that with
Yeah, yeah.
George Clooney to make it more mainstream, and it didn't work. Why? Because he made it more mainstream.
But don't you think it will like kind of alienate? How do you bring folks like me to a cinema like that, right? Because when you suggest these classic films, it kind of alienates, right? So, what do you think is a good way to like bring them over here? Is it just that people should watch more movie? The more you watch, the more you expect, the more better movies you like. Is that the case, or is there no other way?
So I talk like a producer now.
Yeah.
The way to bridge this gap, and I've had a lot of discussions with this when I was working in a studio once.
Hmm.
The way to bridge this gap is with the proper marketing.
Hmm.
So take for example, I'll draw a very simple parallel to Apple. Okay, now Apple introduced the iPhone to the world in 2008. It was what, an $800,000 phone in an era when there were like $100 phones on the planet,
Yeah.
and nobody was willing to like buy a $1,000 phone. How did they achieve that? Simple marketing. Make the audience convinced that they need to buy this product. They have to buy it. So how do you do it with cinema? It's the same way. You market the films properly. I mean, you take, for example, the way Bollywood markets stuff. You see the trailer of Lakshmi Bomb, for instance. I just saw it yesterday for the first time.
Hmm.
It's a transphobic movie. It's a terrible looking movie. You can even if the film is good, it doesn't inspire confidence in me at all.
Yeah.
But for people who are transphobic, who are xenophobic, who are racist, they love the film, okay, because it's pandering to their lowest common denominator emotions within them. So if you market a good film in a certain way, people will watch it no matter what. And there are plenty of examples in Hollywood and also Bollywood to illustrate that. For
Uh,
example, Newton. I don't know if you've heard of a film called
yeah,
Newton that
yeah,
came
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah.
3 years.
Rajkumar Rao. Yeah.
Rajkumar Rao, exactly. That film made 100 crores, bro. 100 crores. How did that movie make 100 crores? Pure and simple marketing. That's about it. That's all it takes. So tomorrow, if a Tarkovsky makes a film, and I am a marketing guy who has the balls to be able to design it in a particular, to be able to design the marketing campaign in a particular way, and I am a producer who is willing to put my money where my mouth is, and to
Hmm.
give the marketing person that much money to be able to market that movie in the way that he wants to
Hmm.
be able to sell that film to everybody in the world. It is possible. It's not that hard.
Right. Another classic example I'd like to make is Bahubali, the best marketed Telugu movie in the history of Telugu industry. Right. They just
Mhm.
this mixture of nationalism and Telugu pride, and they mixed this fur ball and just they threw at the audience, and audience took the bait. So that is another classic example. Yeah.
I mean, it's not really marketing, right?
Hmm.
You don't need to market a film that is full of nationalist fervor and big
Hmm.
visual effects in a mythological setting. It's already there. Like your product is there to be consumed.
Yeah.
It's like opening a shop in Times Square, opening like a Momo shop in Times Square at 4 a.m. Everybody's gonna go there, bro. People are gonna be fucking stoned. They will need munchies at 4 a.m. They will go there. So it's
Right.
just that you don't need to market such a product. It's ready to be consumed.
Is it fair to divide movies into art and commercial? Because I don't believe in art and commercial. It's like there are good movies, there are bad movies, right? Like if you're making a historic piece, there's a good historic piece, bad historic piece. You're making a good VFX bonanza. There is good Pacific Rim, there is bad Transformers movie, right? So what is this art and commercial, and why did how did this divisions come to place in the first place?
Okay, so on a very simplistic term, a commercial movie is a movie where there are recognizable stars
Hmm.
in place. And for example, if you consider, and there are, it follows like a certain set of rules. For example, in Hindi, in the Hindi film industry, what is a commercial movie? A commercial movie is a movie where you have recognizable faces like Akshay Kumar, for instance,
Hmm.
and songs and dances, and like a dramatic arc or like a romantic arc or like
Yeah.
the love interest or whatever. It has those particular things, which can be consumed on a mainstream level because most people are stupid and they like stupid things. So no offense to stupid people, but okay, I did mean some offense. So, but like they can go fuck themselves. I don't care. So anyway, so that an art cinema is something like have you seen this movie called Om Darbadar, or have you heard of a movie called Om Darbadar?
No.
You should
You.
definitely, and anybody listening to this should absolutely Google that movie
Yeah.
and watch that movie. I think it's on YouTube. The entire
Hmm.
film is on YouTube. It's
Hmm.
Om Darbadar. That is a movie which doesn't have recognizable faces. That is a movie which doesn't have any song and dances. It is a movie which critiques the human condition, and it is about the chaos and the madness that comes with just being on this planet. Uh, that's an art house movie because it is an expressionist sort of a cinema, which is like everything is like a painting. It's a beautifully drawn painting. The aesthetics are nice. Everything is painterly. So those things are what an art cinema is. I don't personally know who designed the word art cinema, but in the traditional sense, that's what it means. A
Right.
commercial cinema gets the bad rap because it is aesthetically badly designed.
Hmm.
It looks like crap. It sounds like crap. It has people who say crappy things, and because they pander to like really people with those kind of aesthetics, it sells.
Yeah. And
And
you ever know
yeah.
any movies that transcended these? Like, for example, can we call Dark Knight is something that transcended these boundaries, or do you know any stars who have done actual good art cinema? For example, where would you put a Captain Phillips? Where would you put Captain Phillips in the which category? If for example,
Are you talking about the Tom Hanks movie, Captain Phillips?
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's a full-on commercial movie, bro. It's got
okay,
Tom Hanks in the lead role, and keep in mind, Captain Phillips is a movie about a guy who was a very flawed character.
mm,
So the original Captain Phillips was a very flawed asshole. He was quite a chutia character.
yeah,
Like if you read up about him, he did a lot of mistakes during his captaincy on his ship, which
okay,
undermined his whole operation.
right,
They did not do any of those things in the film. They made
mm,
him into like a Tom Hanks character, where he's the ultimate good guy who stood up
yeah,
for his crew and did the right thing and stood up against the pirates. And none of that was true. Everything was
right,
bullshit.
right,
And the fact that it was whitewashed and made to look like more heroic than it actually was
yeah.
is the very definition of a commercial
Come,
movie. And
got you.
one example of an art movie that a big star did was a movie called Enemy. Have you heard of it?
By whom?
By Denis Villeneuve, the guy who made Blade Runner, the last
Blade Runner
Blade
2.
Runner, Blade
No,
Runner 2.
sorry,
Yeah, Denis
Prisoners. He made Prisoners.
Villeneuve, correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
made.
Okay, I've not seen that movie, but I've seen his movies. Okay.
So Prisoners is a great film, and on the same year he made Prisoners and Enemy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So both those films went to two different festivals, and they were all great movies in their own way.
Yeah.
Prisoners is a good commercial movie, but Enemy is a full-on art house movie
Mm-hmm.
because it is so abstract. It is so
Right.
expressionist. Like there are CGI spiders in the movie where you're
Mm.
supposed to understand what those spiders mean. They're like a metaphorical, they're a metaphorical object in the movie.
Right.
And there's Jake Gyllenhaal playing two different characters. He's got a double role in the movie, and you are just
Okay.
supposed to, yeah, it's completely art house and it's brilliant. It's beautiful, and I wish that movie had more eyeballs because it's really fucking good.
Yeah, because every time you take a movie name, I'm mentally noting them down, and after the IPL, I'm gonna finish all that filmography, just like I do with your tweets. One more criticism the film critics receive is like, does it hurt to like criticize and rant on movies because ultimately there is some hard work going on behind. There are many people working behind it. Sleepless hours have been spent. How do you respond to criticism like that? I mean,
So
what
I'll
is
be
this?
on.
What is this thing? Obsession about hard work should not be criticized, right? Hard work should only be appreciated. I think that was the criticism when Leonardo DiCaprio won the Oscar for his movie, right? Because just because he worked hard doesn't mean he deserved an Oscar, right? I mean, he did deserve an Oscar for other roles, obviously, but what is this obsession and with hard work, and how do you answer that?
So I'll give you a simple example. There's a movie series called Jackass. Have you heard of it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, sir.
It's a very funny. It's a spoof series.
Okay.
It's a very very funny spoof series.
Mm-hmm.
Now in Jackass, the main character often does like weird things,
Mm-hmm.
and there is one episode where the main character eats an ox's testicles on live camera. Now
Okay.
is that's exactly what Leo did in The Revenant? Like he eats a
Yeah.
fucking fish. That's not great acting. It's fine. It's there. It's cool. But like I will not give you an Oscar award for that. I mean, I love The Revenant. I love The Revenant for all
Yeah.
its greatness and whatever. But for that is not a great performance. That is not great cinema. You can eat whatever you want on camera. Like I can go and eat like a
Yeah.
testicle on camera. It doesn't make me like an Oscar winner.
Yeah, the thing
Now,
is like he was freezing in the cold. He worked so hard. I'm like, so?
yeah. So Abhi, here's the thing. Now there are two things.
Hmm.
I'll give you a practical and a personal answer to this question. A practical answer is if you go to a restaurant and if you order like a dish which you don't like, are you entitled to not liking it or liking it? Of course you are. You cannot like something that a guy has worked on for 2 hours
Hmm.
because you're paying for it.
Yeah.
You're the consumer. You're paying for it. You have gone to the restaurant to pay for something. It is a business that they're doing for you. It's for your benefit. It's for your entertainment. Why are people making movies for you, not for themselves? So you are completely entitled towards not liking something, regardless of any hard work that's put out there. And I would like to apply the same values to myself also. Now that I'm making cinema, I would like people to criticize if I've done something terrible. I
Yeah.
would like people to tell me what you did is crap. It's not good. So I'll push myself to do better in the future for my next project.
Yeah.
Nobody can make a perfectly good cinema. So and you will have and any filmmaker improves themselves as they go on in their career. That's
Right.
very simple. Now that's a practical example. Yes, you are entitled to criticize anything regardless of any hard work put into it. Yes, you can do that.
Right.
Second point. Now on a personal level,
Yeah.
when I used to be a film critic, when I was a journalist, I used to write reviews in a particular way. If I do that now, I've stopped that. But if I do that now that I'm making films, I understand the nuances that go into filmmaking and the hard work that's put into it. I would probably not be as harsh as I was that time regarding reviews now.
Hmm.
I would be a little more in depth about the filmmaking process as opposed to the rantiness of it. So for sure, I would be a different film critic now.
No,
If
please, we will miss that. That I have a feeling you grew up somewhere in Andhra and Hyderabad, right? So for me, it's like, how did you go from Mama Mas, Anna Shirtaste Mas, Pantaste Mas to like freaking Kurosawa? How did that happen? When did cinema capture you in a sense?
when it's cinema capture me, the thing is, I grew up in Hyderabad and my house was right next to a movie theater.
Hmm.
So, so me and my parents used to go to watch movies very often. Like every weekend, we used to watch any movie that came out. But the advantage of growing up in Hyderabad was it had a lot of English movies releasing along with all the regional cinema it was releasing.
Yes.
So we made sure that we watched all the Hollywood films that came out every week.
IMAX.
So IMAX, not IMAX really. I mean, when I grew up, there was no IMAX.
Okay.
I'm like an old person, so unlike
Okay.
you guys, I'm a very old person. So uh, to be able to watch 90s Hollywood films at the same time as regional films, you could understand. Like my brain was programmed to understand what good art was and what bad art was. So I had the privilege to be able to have access to good Hollywood films at that time. So when I saw, like, for example, Jumanji, for instance, the 1995 Jumanji,
Yeah.
when I saw them in theaters, and when I saw like Jurassic Park in theaters or like whatever, The Haunting in theaters, and then I came and watched like a Larry Mechanic Aludo or whatever the fuck in theaters, I could understand that this movie is a piece of shit compared to what I just saw for the same budget. So, so that's what happened. Like it was a question of just privilege and access to the right movies at the right time.
Mm. So for generation like myself, that happens on torrents. So the moment I watched Indiana Jones by Spielberg, and I was like, what were Indian movies doing in the 80s? What the hell? Like I was like, yeah, right. What is the first movie that really captured your imagination, that made you explore like more, right? For example, for me, there are few movies that made me explore more. So for example, I once watched Goodfellas, and I totally explored this entire genre of Italian mafia movies, right? Inception made me explore all the science fiction. What was your like breakthrough? I won't say breakthrough, but movies that really captured your imagination. One, two, three, whatever the number it is.
It's actually one, and it's a very specific example. So there's a movie called Edward Scissorhands
Mm-hmm.
by Tim Burton.
Okay.
So I saw that movie in theaters. I was a very small kid that time. I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know, like 5 or 6 years old or something.
Right.
But my experience of watching Edward Scissorhands is very vivid in my memory even now. I remember everything from going from my house to the movie theater, watching it, eating a sandwich over there, like remembering every single scene from the movie, and coming back home and understanding that holy fuck, like this is an experience that I'll never forget. This is something that can be made. Like a human being made that, and they put that on that fucking screen
Hmm.
when everybody else was watching it. So Edward Scissorhands for me is the moment where I sort of realized, okay, there's something that I like. And then when I became like a teenager or whatever,
Yeah.
I realized that I would like to make something like Edward Scissorhands when I grow up. And there's a very particular scene in that movie. There's a scene in that movie where this actress Winona Ryder, who's the star in that movie,
Hmm.
she's sort of there's like a nice, beautiful little romantic sort of song going on, and she's twirling in slow motion
Hmm.
while snowflakes are falling on her body, and there's a top angle camera on that. And once the camera pans, we realize that the snowflakes are actually it's not snow. It's the main character Edward Scissorhands chopping up an ice block into like a really
Okay.
beautiful sculpture, and
Hmm.
the flakes of the snow are falling on her body as she's like twirling on camera. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, this is a magical moment. This is pure movie magic and nothing else, and
Yeah.
nothing else can capture that sort of a moment. Like no other art form can capture that sort of moment.
Hmm.
That's why I realized, okay, you can do this with filmmaking, and maybe I should like do something like that, and maybe I should
Yeah.
invest myself more into this line of work.
But you did not have any film school training, no literature classes for writing training. You just started your blog. Is that right? Is like out of the blue? Because I also remember just reading some of your old articles where you said Chiranjeevi's best performance was the movie where he plays the musician. I forgot the name of the movie. About caste and something like that. I remember reading very old articles of yours. So how did this writing? Where did you get all these skills from? You know what I mean?
So I always read a lot of books when I was growing up,
Mm,
and I always wrote things like I wrote for my school magazine, I wrote for my college magazine, and the thing is, when I was in college, I was really bored, and I was not really interested in. I mean, it was okay, the course was okay, but I was not really interested in. I was not enjoying college,
mm,
so I just started writing a blog one day. Since I like movies so much, I just started writing something and I put
mm,
it out on the internet,
mm.
and somehow it just got viral. I don't know how the fuck it got viral. Like but that one article, it got viral,
Okay.
and I decided to start a blog. Since that one thing got viral, I thought, okay, I'll write more, and because I had time and I had the interest to do
Yeah.
so, I just started writing more and more and more. And no, I didn't really have any specific training as such, but I did learn photography in college though.
Mm.
But I had a photography course. Like I had a physics and a photography sort of a combination in my college course. So the basics of framing I learned in college. So if anybody really wants to understand framing, they should take a course for sure.
Right.
So I had the gift of, or like the privilege of reading a lot of books,
Mm.
being able to articulate that into words in a Word document, and also learning basic framing to be able to
Mm.
understand the basics of cinema.
Mm.
And I also took a film appreciation class, which actually helped me immensely in college. Where
Right.
basically it is just people like you are, example, interviewing me now. I'm giving you random gyan about like random things in life. I
Mm.
sat with like a bunch of people who gave me a lot of gyan about what good cinema can be, and how cinema should not be defined as like one particular thing. Like no one cinema is bad or no one cinema is good or whatever. Like so, I had a lot of these discussions with like a bunch of varied people to be able
Yeah.
to make informed opinions about this particular art form.
Right.
And yeah, so no formal training as such, but really like most of the great filmmakers that I know, they don't really have formal training in cinema. They just
Mm.
come into it. Tarantino is like that. He used to work in like
Yeah.
what a video store
Video
before he
store.
made a movie.
Yeah.
Ram Gopal Verma was like that. Anurag
Yeah.
Kashyap is like that. They're all like that, bro. You can't learn cinema. You can just make cinema.
You just should have the eye to like tell stories or
If you
observe
are
them.
intuitive enough, and if you are sort of loquacious enough, you
Yeah.
can make films good. That's all.
R-
That's all it takes. It's
Right.
not something that you can learn. It's also not something that you should learn from like somebody else, because they will teach you something that they know.
Mm.
And film should not be just about that. It should
Yeah.
be what you know and what you want.
Right. And speaking of filmmaking, one of the biggest stupid things that people in our country says, what is this job called film critic? Is that even a job? Why don't they, if they are so knowledgeable about cinema, why don't they make movies and all that shit? Have you like, are you like sick and tired of hearing that shit all your life?
No, but it's kind of true also, to be honest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. Mm, sure. I mean, suppose I'm a filmmaker and like some asshole in his basement writes a 200-word article about how crappy my film is. I would be pissed. I mean, no doubt about it. I worked like for 120 days on this particular film,
Mm-hmm.
and some idiot is sitting in his house and typing trash about it. I would be upset. Anybody would be upset. Now, the question of whether film critics should make films, sure, they should, but they should for sure know at least the basics of how to make a film.
Yeah.
Uh, when a film critic or whatever, a film journalist doesn't know the basics of cinema, then that's wrong.
Yeah.
Then you're in a position which you're abusing, and you're talking out of your ass, to be honest. You have to know. You have to know certain things. You
Yeah.
have to know what blocking is. You have to know what grading is. You have to know what coloring is. You have to know cinematography, sound, like the basics. तुम्हें पता रहना चाहिए. And not just that, you should be not only do you have to know how to make films, you have to also know a lot of history about cinema. You
Mm.
have to also watch a lot of cinema. So those things, absolutely, they have to be done. Otherwise, you're not qualified enough, and you are just ranting out of your ass. That is true.
Minimum film geekiness should be there in any film critic, right? The critics that I follow, yourself, and one more favorite critic of mine is like Rahul Desai, right? I mean, these people have knowledge sometimes more than the actual filmmakers who are out there in Bollywood, right? So not not talking about Anurag Kashyap. He's the geeko god of everybody else. But yeah, so what is this disrespect to the critics that we have in this country? Because I love critics very much, good ones. And but where do you think this contempt for critics comes from in our country and perhaps in abroad as well?
Now there are two things happening. One is, suppose you are a fan of some filmmaker.
Mm,
If you like something a lot, if you like mm, Christopher Nolan's films a lot, and there are a lot of fans of Christopher Nolan,
yeah.
and some guy comes and says, "Ki this movie is not that good," you will. There's a, fandom is a very powerful subject, right?
Mm,
Fans and fandom is it transcends logic. It transcends like everything else. I mean, if it's you treat filmmakers like a family. If you're a fan
mm,
of somebody, like उसके बारे में तूने कैसे बोला बहनचोद? Like it's like that, you know. So even if you know, if you're a fan, even if you know that that person has made a trashy film, you still defend that person and you still like sort of get on the ass of anybody who's criticized that film. So it's fandom is a problem for sure.
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen there's a movie called what is that movie? There's a Robert De Niro movie like this, in fact, about this only. About how
King of Comedy.
no, that's not the one.
Okay.
King of Comedy is a good movie on its
Mm,
own,
mm,
but there's a different movie about Robert De Niro who is a massive fan of a baseball player,
okay.
and he can't like tolerate anybody talking trash about the baseball player. Wesley Snipes is in that movie, and Wesley Snipes is the baseball player,
Hmm.
and Robert De Niro is the fan.
Okay.
And he reads like a bit of criticism about somebody trashing Wesley Snipes, and you're like, how dare he, how dare he talk about my favorite player like that? So it's just fandom, and
Yeah. You remember that incident where people were trolled the heck out of the film critics when Dark Knight Rises came out? People trolled critics when Scorsese's Silence came out because many apparently loved Silence, but they were not happy with the reviews and so on.
yeah, I mean, there's always you can't please everybody, right? Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
always 2% of people you can please, and here's the thing with so okay, fine. Here's the thing. The problem is the cult of personality, right? If you become like a
Mm,
cult personality like Scorsese or Nolan or whoever, for instance, you'll have a very, very strong fan base who will defend you no matter what. And then there'll be like the other 50% who will be so disappointed with your work that they'll hate you no matter what.
yeah.
So you can't please anybody. This is a duality which will perpetuate for the rest of your life if you're a filmmaker, and that's how it's going to be. That's the yin and yang of the fan and filmmaker
Right.
equation.
Yeah, I'm just trying to humanize film critics in a way because I'm just sick and tired of people, demonizing critics every day, every week. What is a day in a film critics like? Like, for example, you give me so many examples of so many movies that you watched. How much watching does it take, like per day? If you really count, drill down to an average per day, how many films do you watch? Is like I work in IT for like 8 hours a day. You watch films 8 hours a day. How does it work? What is the life of a film critic like?
Okay, so people like me are a little mad. So
Hmm.
I spent like a lot of time watching movies, to be honest. I don't know if I know anybody who watches movies as much as I do because
Okay.
I it's like a drug for me. So I
Mm.
should watch a shit ton of movies,
Mm.
and I'm lucky enough to have like a bunch of other friends who also watch movies as much as me. Not as much as me, but like they like movies as much as me.
Mm.
But like I said, like if you are in any field, you have to really hone your craft. Right?
Mm.
And how do you hone your craft? By doing whatever you're doing over and over and over again to be able to polish your skill set.
Mm.
And if you, for me, why did I become a film critic? Because I like film so much.
Yes.
And if I like something, if I like a drug, if I'm in the drug industry, I will do the drug every day, every single day till I perfect the art of consuming drugs or making drugs. That's what it is.
Wrong
And
time to perfect, but go on. Sorry.
yeah, so here's the thing: you can never watch enough movies. If you
Mm.
are in the film industry, you can never watch enough movies. If you are in the books industry, you can never read enough books. If you are a publisher, you can never read enough articles. That's essentially what I'm sure it's the same thing for you also. If you're in the IT field, I'm sure you come across a whole spectrum of really brilliant coding that comes to your
Yeah.
way. You're blown away by what is happening in like some other country or with some other person or whatever. You like to pick the brains about. तूने ये
Right.
कैसे किया? तूने इतना जल्दी कैसे किया?
Right.
It's just that, bro. I mean, yeah. I honestly believe you should do whatever you're doing a lot to be able to hone your skill set.
How do you
So
find, like, if the filmmaker is a geek, right? How does he find times? Like, I wonder about Anurag Kashyap, right? He has this massive DVD library. He's making movies, writing stuff, and he's watching, like, does he have like 48 hours in a day and shit like that? I wonder like that.
yeah, man. Like, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, if you are a filmmaker as much as Kashyap, then you will find time in a day.
Mm.
You would rather like cancel some meeting with somebody else and like spend that 3 hours just watching the movie at home, which is what I personally feel, which is what differentiates the great filmmakers from the okay ones.
Yeah.
That you will कुछ भी हो जाए एक फिल्म देखना दिन में एक फिल्म और एक सीरीज or whatever you have to like do it once a day to be able to make really good cinema.
The love, it should come out of the love, not, yeah, obviously.
Absolutely, the madness and the passion. Like, why are people making films for the madness and the passion? And if it is not coming through in your work, then you're not a good filmmaker. Why are you're a filmmaker?
Right. Sincerity in the work is important.
Yeah,
Even
it's
if
a
you,
very brutal industry, right? It's not like
yeah.
there is no college degree that you can get to make films.
Mm.
It
Mm.
is completely abstract. Everything is completely abstract. Like for example, you're in the IT field.
Mm.
You can get a college degree. You can learn certain
Yeah.
formulas and
Yeah.
do IT work. You can learn coding. You can learn languages, and you can do IT. You can
Yeah.
do coding. Nothing like that in the film industry. It's just madness and passion. That's what it is.
Right. What are the other things the film critics do, right? Because when Irfan Khan died, you tweeted something like you wrote subtitles for one of his films. So what are the other responsibilities that film critics have in general? Something like subtitles. What don't we know?
Oh no! So I did subtitles not as a film critic. I just did it as somebody who was a fan of Irfan at that time.
Yeah.
Like the subtitling work was independent of my film criticism work.
Mm.
So essentially, what happened that time was the production house which did that movie.
Mm.
They just contacted me because I was good at, I guess, English and
Mm.
translating from Hindi to English, and they just
Mm.
asked me if I wanted to do that, and I was like, oh yeah, for sure. And it was a good movie also, so I did that for them.
Right.
But what are the responsibilities of a film critic? I mean, to be able to give an unbiased opinion. That's the
Mm.
number one thing.
Right.
The thing is, bias is very hard to remove from oneself about anything in general. So bias will come through. I think but the biggest challenge is to be able to disassociate yourself from who's in the movie and who made the movie. To be able to write a good, informed, balanced sort of a review about anything at
Yeah.
all. I think and the responsibility in general is to be able to have a connection.
Mm.
You have to be a conduit between the audiences and the filmmaker.
Right.
That's essentially what it is. Without, and you should be bereft of any wrath
Yeah.
towards any side of the field. That's what it is.
You speak of conduit. Tell me something. How good a conduit are you between you and your Telugu film watchers?
I'm a terrible conduit, bro, because I famously loathe Telugu movies. I
Okay.
famously like hate Telugu movies because they are misogynistic as fuck.
Yeah.
They are they are badly shot. They are badly acted. I mean, I'm talking about like general Telugu cinema. Like,
Mm.
if you would like me to pick one great Telugu movie in the past 10 years, I have to really think about what that movie is. Because I'm not talking about my ass. Like, I've
Yeah.
grown up in Hyderabad, so I've seen Telugu films, and I know that they're fucking terrible. And the budgets in Telugu movies is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
They are so expensive, and yet they make like really terrible films. So I don't know why that.
People down there south are making such great cinema, right? Tamil, Malayalam, some bonker cinema comes out of there, and just Telugu, it's just so. I'm when someone asks me, one of my foreign cousins asks me Telugu cinema, I'm like, I think hard and twice to like before suggesting something, right? Because if they ask something Hindi, I can proudly suggest Sacred Games or Patal Lok and stuff like that. When they ask something in Telugu, right, I'm like, now what?
Yeah, man. I mean, my thing is simple. You remove the misogyny from cinema and you'll get good cinema. So the
Right.
Telugu industry only has to remove the misogyny and the navel gazing from the cinema and tell actual stories. I mean, there are so many stories out there, man.
Yeah.
Just tell the common man story. Don't tell me a star's story. Don't make a propaganda film for the star. Make a story. Make a movie about a movie. So that's what. And there is no offense meant towards Telugu filmmakers or the Telugu audiences or whatever. I just feel that both camps can do a little better.
Yep.
Like the audiences should expect better, and the filmmakers should put in more effort. That's my only thing. And this is an industry which is struggling, bro. Like since I mean, like the film industry in general, all over the world is struggling right now with the shift from analog to digital now.
Yeah.
And there is no excuse for not just Telugu films, but any film to be like bad. You know,
Because the
otherwise, why
distribution
should
will
anybody
happen.
pay to watch content?
Yeah.
Like my friend who's sitting in front of me right now. Like we grew up in Hyderabad together,
Mm.
and we saw some really fuck all movies, bro. Like we were like, in fact, we were just discussing last night कि कितने हम लोग कितने पीछे थे बॉलीवुड के.
Yeah. Still है sir, क्या मतलब कब? When I really want one Angamali Diaries to come out of Telugu, one Visaranai to come out of Telugu, but I
And
think
I'm genuinely curious: is there any Telugu film in the past 10 years which is as good as Visaranai or Angamali Diaries? I'm genuinely asking.
I have to really think hard, sir. I mean, to be really honest, we can really call something Iga something original out of the rest of the
Iga
crap.
was what, like 30 years back?
Yeah.
The
Iga is
guy
really,
is fucking dead now, bro. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I
come on.
the Chiranjeevi movie that I was talking about was Rudravina, that the one that you wrote about. Chiranjeevi's best
Dude, like,
acting.
so, like, fun backstory about Iga, okay? So,
Hmm.
Iga, what, like 8 years back or something, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
So that time, I just tweeted one good thing about Iga, okay? I just said कि Iga is a good film. मैंने उतना ही बोला, I didn't say anything else. And there was like a whole horde of Telugu film fans who just told me saying कि, oh, how dare you criticize Iga? I'm like, dude, I just like praised Iga in my tweet. What are you talking about? What is wrong with you? And they were all like, no, no, you're always biased
They
against Iga.
they they took your appreciation to sarcasm or shit like that.
Yeah, I don't know. So it's the situation is that bad, is what I'm saying. It's stupid.
Yeah. Uh, how did your transition from like critic to filmmaker happen? So this was your this is how you started. This is why you started, because ultimately you wanted to make films, or was just film critic writing your like a bridge to that path, or it just you go with the flow.
To be honest, I didn't really have a plan in place.
Hmm.
I was really enjoying my work of writing about cinema. I always knew that I wanted to make films when I was a kid,
Hmm.
but I didn't really put any effort into it earlier on. And I was really comfortable in doing like this armchair criticism wala job where must ghar pe baitho or films dekho and all. I was getting too comfortable for my own liking, to be honest. But then one day I just got a call from Anurag Kashyap, and he just asked me, ki, like, what are you doing in life? I'm like, I'm writing about your movies only. What are you talking about? So he was like, तुझे क्या करना है? तुझे फिल्म्स के बारे में लिखना है जिंदगी भर कि तुझे फिल्म बनाना है? So I was like, okay, tell me what you have in mind. And he just connected me with Vikramaditya Motwani, who's in Phantom, who basically just gave me a job in Phantom, saying, ki, bro, we are doing this thing for Phantom. Why don't you like come and join us? And I was like, for sure, why not? And I just went to Phantom and I produced a show called Ghoul over there
Yeah.
for Netflix. And after I made Ghoul, I realized ki, okay, I need to direct and write now, and producing is not just enough. So I got really hungry to make cinema. So then I decided to shift to directing and writing. So now I've done that, exactly that.
What are you allowed to reveal about your upcoming movie, if you can reveal anything at all?
Oh, for sure. So last December, last end of December, I shot a short film called Chewing Gum. It's a horror short which is produced by Vikramaditya Motwani, and it's a pretty crazy story. So it's about a guy who boards a local train at night in Mumbai and gets chased around by this monster. And yeah, a lot of weird things happen in the short. And that short is ready. We were going to send it to film festivals this year, But then the pandemic happened, and we were
Hmm.
like, okay, let's just stop, let's give it a pause. We'll release it whenever the pandemic sort of opens up, so
Hmm.
that we could go to festivals. I didn't really want to give it like an online release,
Yeah.
so I'm just sitting on it right now, and we're going to send it to various festivals now.
Hmm.
That's the first short film. But after that, I've made an entire feature length film during the entire lockdown in Mumbai.
Wow.
So I was actually out shooting during the entire lockdown. We had like a proper 85-day shoot,
Damn.
and yeah, it's pretty interesting. So in fact, we were just watching it last night. So that's
Was
what's
anyone
happening.
making was anyone making a movie on you making a movie in the lockdown? Do you have a documentary like that? Uh, uh,
Unfortunately, not.
Additional Blu-ray release or something like that?
There is some BTS stuff, like behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
So yeah, well, yeah. So I'm directing that one. So
Right.
I can't reveal too much about it right now, but it's a very interesting project, and it's yeah, it's gonna fuck some shit up in the industry for sure.
Nice. Can't wait. One more question that I had is, do critics get paid by the movies by any chance to, uh, hype it up a little bit with the positive reviews, or bomb someone else's movie or something like that? Does that happen?
No, but so it doesn't happen directly, but I mean, so here's the thing: what is the Times News Network? What is TOI? What does Vinit Jain's Times Network do?
Hmm.
Now, you just talked about Rahul Desai a few minutes
Right.
back, right?
Yeah.
Actually, what happened to Rahul? Are you aware
Yep.
of what happened
Yep.
to Rahul Desai?
Yep. He was.
Exactly. What is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So he had given what, like 2.5 stars or whatever to some movie. I don't even remember the name of the movie. And
Salman Khan's
Times
movie, I
Group
guess.
essentially told him it was a Salman Khan movie.
I think
Okay,
so. I think so. I
right.
may
So
be wrong.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, they literally asked him to add like an extra star or something, and he was like, "Fuck off, man! That's not my job. I'm not doing marketing for a fucking movie."
Yeah.
And they were like, "But we are doing marketing for a movie." So that is not from criticism. That is just
Yeah.
marketing, and it's a passive way of just doing what you just mentioned
Hmm.
as to whether films bribe critics. That was your question essentially, and
Yeah.
this is like an indirect way of doing that. Yes, it
Hmm.
is. It's there for sure. There was like an older critic who. Now here's the thing: like a lot of indirect stuff happens because if you're friends with filmmakers,
Mm.
you will tend to be a little more benevolent towards
Yes.
your friends' films. It does
Yes.
happen. There is no harm in admitting that. Of course, it happens. Whether you do it knowingly or unknowingly is immaterial. But whether it happens, yes, it happens for sure. But whether a critic is paid, no, man, no critics
Mm.
are paid. And I can attest for a lot of people that people are honorable, critics are honorable people, and they need to exist, and they are the driving force of like the communication gap between the viewers and the filmmakers. They are required. They're the watchdogs of
Yes.
creative control in the industry, and without them, the industry will not exist. And without them, film should not exist, to be honest, because we absolutely need them.
Golden words, especially for your Telugu fans. Anyways, uh,
Who are
I,
the? Sorry, I've got a question to ask you. Sorry,
Ronald.
who are the Telugu film critics, by the way?
Good question. You
No, I've never reviewed a Telugu film ever in my
really?
life.
Wow.
No,
No, it's Sifi.com some shit. I don't know.
Sifi is still alive. That's interesting.
That is a good question also because I remember seeing it a long time. There's no such.
No,
I
but
don't think.
there's a good friend of mine called C.R. Hemant. He's actually a good writer.
Oh yeah.
C.R. Hemant writes about Telugu films, I think, on First Post. I've
I
known him for a very long time.
Wow. Thanks for the follow. Anyone else you would like to point to in the?
No, that's what. So I know only him. And
Mm,
I mean, Bharatwaj Rangan is a great critic. And I
mm.
don't know if he writes about Telugu cinema or not. He only writes about certain picky cinema.
I think what Hindu does is Hindu assigns random writers to review Telugu films. There is no such thing called a Telugu film reviewer. But
That's the problem in hand.
yeah, because they
That's the
get
problem.
right. They got to rotate so that they don't get targeted. Understood. Uh, three quick fire questions. All right. Uh,
Hmm.
what is the most appreciated positive review that you have ever written so far?
Appreciate it positive. I think it was the review of Chennai Express, I think.
You were
Because
positive on that.
no, I mean, I like the movie, but
Hmm.
it had some stupid things in it, right?
Hmm.
So Are you talking about the positive review that I gave or the positive
You gave.
message reception that I gave?
You gave.
Oh, I
No,
oh okay.
the positive review that you gave, and people were like, "Yep, agreed. You're right. Perfect. Perfectly written," or
Oh,
something like that.
I don't
Is it?
know, man. Like so I wrote an article about the first season of Dark
Mm,
when it came out 3 years back, and nobody was talking about Dark that time. No, not one single person in India was talking about Dark, and I don't want to take too much credit for it, but I sort of take responsibility for bringing Dark to like the mainstream level in India.
right.
And that article did really well. It's on First Post. You guys can check it out.
Yeah.
And I wrote a really in-depth sort of an article on that, and people, I guess, thanked me for introducing them to Dark at that point of time.
Right.
Um, yeah, that's the one thing I can think of right now.
The most appreciated negative review. I mean, the one that you literally ranted out, and people are like, "Bro, you're right."
I don't know, man.
For me, it's
That's
Chris 3.
negative thing. Okay.
It's like you said,
What
you
did I
wrote
write
something
about
like
that?
you wrote something like the CGI is like it was made out of MS Paint or something like
Oh shit, it's true,
that.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I work in the industry though, so I can't say anything. I should probably go and delete that review now.
Right. Please. Most of the reviews. The toughest review to write you literally faced like tons of backlash. You shut down your Twitter or some shit like that.
Oh no, that never happened. I never shut down my Twitter or whatever for
Hmm.
anything.
But the
I mean,
most
there have been
backlash.
any Salman Khan film here. You write anything against Salman Khan film, you will face backlash. But I just
Hmm.
laughed it off. I never really cared about any backlash coming into the picture. It's fine. It's okay. Whatever.
Right.
If people don't learn from criticism of bad cinema, then they don't really want to learn, and there's not much you can do.
Yeah. True. When can we expect your movie? 2021 first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. What do you think?
Second quarter of 2021, you can expect it most probably.
On the online space, right? Netflix,
For
Amazon,
sure, yeah. On one of the streaming platforms, yeah, for sure. I can't
right?
talk about which platform we're talking to right now, but yeah, the second half of 2021 is likely when you'll actually see it. We are actually going on a festival run before that.
Hmm.
So it depends on whether we are selected and whether we get some
Yeah.
award at some festival and what happens to it. But yeah, we are working on post production right now, and we are currently designing the VFX for the film. So that's
And
what's
you
happening.
you're not even allowed to like reveal the title and stuff, right now.
Not right now, not right
Yeah.
now, but I will soon. We're gonna
Will you,
release a poster out soon, and yeah.
I also love your reviews for the trailers, right? For example, you had praised. The only reason why I watched Godzilla's trailer was because of your recommendation, the first Godzilla that was cut, right? So you're gonna cut the trailer, right? So generally, filmmakers have a say in the cut, or they don't.
No, if it's especially like a big budget film, then filmmakers have no say in the marketing at all, which
Mm,
is a little sad,
mm,
because there's so much money involved, right? So the studios have to make sure that the marketing department works to its full capacity,
yeah.
and they're also right because cutting trailers is an art form which is completely different from cutting movies.
Yes.
So a filmmaker making a movie will probably not know how to cut a trailer which is designed for the audiences, and
Mm.
vice versa. So it's a very strange that's a debatable topic, to be honest. Like whether they should
Yeah.
have control over it is debatable.
But it's because I didn't like the second trailer of the first trailer of the Tenet was okay. The second trailer of Tenet was there was so much revealed, right? I'm not a big fan of things when trailers reveal
Mm.
too much. So that looked like a completely studio cut trailer. So that is the source of this question.
So the funny part is we were discussing this exact moment, this
Hmm.
exact topic yesterday night only with my other friends and all that. Ki,
Hmm.
why do trailers reveal so much?
Hmm.
Now that's a catch-22 situation, right? The, the,
Yeah.
the marketing department has to be able to sell the movie to the audiences. And how do you sell the movie to the audiences with like a really bombastic, punchy trailer?
Right.
But whether you need to give so much information, no, you should not. I honestly feel that a trailer should tease the audiences. They should like reel them
Yeah.
in and like put them into the theater. They should not give out all their fucking cards to the
Yeah.
audiences. That is a stupid way to market a movie. So like I said, like marketing is key to everything. Even if you make a good movie, you have to market it properly to be able to be able to sell it to the audiences. Whether you make a bad movie, you should make a good trailer. Now take for example, have you seen Terminator Salvation, the movie?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't get the balls to watch that. But sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
So Terminator Salvation is a terrible movie, right? But
Okay.
it has one of the best trailers I've ever seen in my life.
Uh-huh.
Terminator Salvation. So if you ever got a chance, just like check it out. It is one of the most kick-ass trailers I've ever seen in my life.
Hmm.
And everybody thought it's going to be a great movie, and then people went to watch it, and it was a piece of shit. So that's what happened. That's the power of a good trailer. You can make a
Yeah.
good trailer.
Yeah. What do you, on which side do you fall when it comes to watching the review and watching the movie, or watching the movie and then reading the reviews, right? Because when you read the reviews upfront, you go in with a certain bias in your mind into the theater. But if you don't read the reviews, you can't decide where do you put your money and where do you put your time in, right? Because time and money are precious.
I think the key is to following the right critics. There are
Mm,
some critics who write really good reviews without revealing information at all about the movie.
yeah.
It's all about all about the craft and the art form of the review itself. Like
Mm,
there's a critic called Mark Kermode. I don't know if you've heard of him,
mm-hmm.
but he's my favorite reviewer of all time, Mark
Right.
Kermode.
Right.
You should absolutely check out his podcast. You should absolutely check out his write ups, and his he also gives um, audio reviews, radio reviews. Sorry, you
Yeah.
should check them out for sure. And the way he articulates a review is incredible.
Mm,
He gives a very crisp and clear indication of what the quality of the movie is, without giving any information on what the film is actually about, which I love.
right.
Because I would like to be excited, I would like to be
Mm.
enticed, I would like to be blown away by what the movie can offer, and I want that mystery level to be there. कि क्या है?
Does he write for Roger Ebert's page by any chance? Because
No, he
I've
doesn't. He
no.
doesn't. No.
Oh, okay.
He is for me. He's more skilled than Roger Ebert, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you should check out his radio for sure. For sure, he collaborates with a guy called Simon Mayo for the BBC.
Okay.
So Mayo and Kermode have this podcast where they discuss movies, and it's the best.
Wow. I simply love your recommendations, and really we have to do one podcast with just list of Mihir Fadnavis recommendation one day, hopefully when you find time, because they're golden. Thank you very much for your time, Mihir. Absolute fanboy moment of a chat, as I said. Thank you very much for sharing your story and sharing the information about your movie, which you did it like you would share a trailer, not much, but just a little.
You're welcome, man. My pleasure being on the show. I'm sorry about canceling so many times, but it's a pleasure talking to you, man.
Worth it. It's all worth it. Thank you very much, ladies and gents. That's it from the Solo Cuppers podcast. Till we see you next time. Bye, everyone.